Hey guys, welcome to the video on sex linkage. We are going to get started talking about theory behind how this came about. So if you are on, I believe, roughly page 10 of your notes. So we're going to start chromosomal theory, which essentially states the following. We know chromosomes carry genes, which are our units of heredity. We know that homologous chromosomes segregate during meiosis. Gametes are only N, so haploid, and that they do this all independently. There's no rhyme or reason to how they separate into different sex cells. Okay, so that's chromosomal theory, the 4 points. So if you could take a moment to pause it here, put those 4 things down in your notes. So where did this start from? This is Thomas Hunt Morgan, sorry. He was an American geneticist and he worked with fruit flies. Now, if you know me and you know me well, you know I absolutely despise fruit flies. Go to the genetics course in college and you'll understand why. So what he did, though, was to provide a very deep understanding of heredity based on gender, so male and female. And the reason he did that is because, well, luckily enough, he used fruit flies, which, again, are the bane of my existence. And if you learn about fruit flies, you will learn that they only live about 10 to 15 days. They can produce tons and tons of eggs. They're really easy to breed. Offspring mature super quick because they don't live very long. But males and females are very, very different. Okay. They're also very small. They are very different looking in traits, and they only have 4 pairs of chromosomes. Okay, so 8 chromosomes altogether. So if you look at the picture I've provided, you can see the vast difference between males and females, size, the way that the ends of their bodies are shaped. And you'll notice up above the pictures of the fruit flies presented, you can see that their eye colors are different. We're going to talk about wings and all this stuff. All right, so this is where he started. So how did he get started? Well, he looked at the chromosomes in fruit flies and realized that the eye color is vastly different. So in your notes, we're going to let R equal red and little r equal white. Now, we're going to make an assumption, which we know is true now, but at the time he was trying to figure out. We are going to assume that the alleles, so big R and little r, are actually found on the X chromosome only. So you should have a legend that looks like this. So X big R means red and X little r means white. Before, it was big R, little r. It's still the same allele. We just are now attaching it to the sex chromosome, meaning all of our other body cells, okay, don't have this allele in it. So we're going to look at a couple different crosses. So in your notes, you're going to copy down these crosses. So when I'm done explaining them, pause and add them to your notes. So here's our first Punnett square. We have a cross between a female red-eyed fruit fly. I know that because I have 2 R's, big R's, which mean red. And then I know I have a cross with a male because of an XY chromosome. And his eye color is white because it's a little r. So I've separate out the gametes. The female has 2 R's, big R's with the eggs. And then you have X little r with the white eyes for the chromosome. And then you have the male gamete of Y. So you're going to fill in your Punnett square, and you're going to notice right away that there is a vast difference than what we've been talking about in monohybrids. Although this one represents red eyes, and all of these represent red eyes, you will notice that it's red eyes in females and red eyes in males. Okay, so in a sex-linked cross, we always have to separate out males and females. Okay, so although they're all red, we would actually write the phenotype as 2 to 2 or reduced down to 1 to 1 because that's what we are seeing, because although they're all red, it's 1 to 1 for females and males. Okay, the genotype is no different either. We have the same separate genotypes here, 2 X's to 2 Y's. Okay, so then we take a second cross, and we are going to cross what we had in the first one. So these 2 guys. So this is now my F1 generation, sorry. I'm going to take this and I'm going to cross it with this. Again, I'm going to separate out my gametes, place them in my Punnett square. All right, now you're going to notice that there is an actual very big difference here. Our phenotype is now 1 to 2 to 1. Okay, so 1 red eye. Sorry, I pointed at the wrong one at the first time. 1 red boy to 2 red females to 1 white male. But the genotype is all different because if you look at actual chromosomes, none of them are the same. Okay, so when we are doing sex-linked crosses, genotypes and phenotypes are split out between males and females. So be very careful. So again, pause your notes here, get this down into your notes, and then repress play. So essentially, Morgan came down to a couple conclusions. One, eye color is controlled by genes that are on the X chromosome. Males and females both have X's, so that's how it is controlled. The Y chromosome is not carrying any gene for eye color because it did not have an effect. Again, we know the Y chromosome is for males and the development of testosterone. And the other unique thing that he came across is that males cannot be heterozygous. If you go back to your notes and look, you will notice that males, because they don't have any allele on the Y, can never be heterozygous. They are or they aren't that trait. You can still have heterozygous females, though, as they have two X's in their genetics. So essentially, it comes down to what are sex-linked traits. They are traits that are almost always carried on the X chromosome. So Y chromosome, again, for sex determination. And X-linked traits occur more in males than in females. And the reason for that is because males only have one X. So if you either have it or you don't have it, there's no in between like there is with females for heterozygous, okay? Males can either express red or they can express white. There's no in between, okay? We know their genetics because if they're expressing red, it has to be a big R. And if they're expressing white, it has to be a little r because that Y has no effect. Females cannot get Y-linked traits because we only have X chromosomes. So that will make more sense as we move forward through some examples. So here is a practice problem we are going to do. You are going to cross a red-eyed female fruit fly who is heterozygous with a white-eyed male fruit fly. Again, pause it here, do it yourself first, then check to make sure you did it right. So write down your parents. That is always number one. Legend is here. Here are my parents. Red-eyed female who's heterozygous, big R, little r, on the X chromosome is crossed with a white-eyed male. Again, X chromosome has the little r. Separate out your gametes. That is always a mark. So boom, boom, boom. We have marks right here on the page. If this was on a test, you would get marks for showing this. You're going to plug those gametes into your Punnett square. Your Punnett square then needs to be completed to look as such. You now need to write out the phenotype. If you look at the Punnett square, nothing is the same. There is a red-eyed female, a white-eyed female, a red-eyed male, and a white-eyed male. Again, phenotype matters when it comes to sexes. So there's one red eye, one white eye, one red eye, one white eye, but opposite sexes. So it has to be separated out. The genotype is also 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 because none of the genotypes are identical. So hopefully when you did this question, this is what you got. If this is not what you got, stop, pause the video, look it over, write down where you made your mistake, and bring it to me and we will go over it tomorrow. So there's lots of examples of sex linkage in humans. Ones that we're going to talk in depth about is something like color blindness. Visual pigments are responsible to create red and greens that are found in the X chromosomes. That's the rods in the back of your eyes. By rods, I definitely meant cones. And we're going to show it like this when we talk about it in class. So X big C means you're normal. X little c means you're colorblind. Oh, there goes the bell. So this is how you would represent it in your notes. Oops, sorry, like that. So what we're going to do is right now, what I want you to show is write these down, and I will post a second video going through the examples that are after this. So get everything down to about here. Pause, get this in your notes, and I will be back with the second video in a bit.